In the 25 years that I have been watching Aamir Khan movies, I have not seen him be this visible outside of the movies, probably making this film the most marketed and promoted film from Hindi cinema in years. The question is, does the quality of the film warrant the promotion or was it an overkill? Well, Sitaare Zameen Par, directed by R.S. Prasanna of Shubh Mangal Sabdhan fame, is the official remake of the 2018 Spanish film Championes that was also remade in English with Woody Harrelson titled Champions that released in 2023. Known as a star who always goes against the tide, it's quite fascinating that Aamir Khan does not pander to what is trending, specifically the action genre currently, and two, is also remaking a film after the dismal reaction that his last film Lal Singh Chadda got, a remake of an iconic film like Forrest Gump. Sitaare Zameen Par, despite its insane marketing run, is getting a hush-hush response from the audience. But I also owe it to the genre it focuses on, heavily relying on a good word of mouth from the audience. The film is referenced as a spiritual sequel to Taare Zameen Par, the parallels just owing to the focus on differently abled children and treating them with respect and dignity. It sheds light on Gulshan, played by Aamir Khan, who is an assistant basketball coach and a belligerent, argumentative drunk who gets into a scuffle with his senior, only to, as a punishment by law, be handed over the job of being a coach for differently abled children. The way Gulshan struggles to assimilate with this new group of students, gets assigned to prepare them for a basketball tournament, and mends his problematic ways to embrace them as his new family, forms the basic premise of Sitaare Zameen Par. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch the film in theaters or not. The underwhelming aspects. Mid music. I do not want to reduce a film like Sitaare Zameen Par to a comparative analysis, but I can't help but reference what Aamir Khan said regarding this film being Taare Zameen Par's spiritual sequel, specifically saying on how Taare Zameen Par made you cry, but this film is gonna make you laugh. While creating such parallels, I can't help but feel like the music of Taare Zameen Par was just exponentially more effective in quality. Mind you, both albums being composed by Shankar Ehsaan Loy. You had gut-wrenching and emotional tracks like the title track and Ma. You had peppy, energetic tracks for children like Bum Bum Bole and Kholo Kholo. It's still etched in people's memory. However, I feel like Sitaare Zameen Par lacked the soul in its musical numbers. This is not a diss on the singles being poor, but just not evoking feelings of either extremes, neither of great joy nor of emotional despair. Maybe the difference is the lyricist Prasoon Joshi, who has been replaced this time by Amitabh Bhattacharya. My favorite track of this film is the Arijit Singh and Sharvira Parulkar song Sar Aankhon Pe Mere, that provides us a great insight into the individual strife within Gulshan and how it affects even his family dynamic with his wife played by Genelia Deshmukh. I don't care what anyone says regarding Arijit Singh fatigue, but the man's vocals are truly angelic. The peppy songs for the kids, including Good For Nothing, Shubh Mangalam and the title track, are fun, but beyond it just being wholesome to see the kids having a ball, it's not something that I believe has largely matched up to the admirable theme of the movie. Minute hiccups. There are 2 or 3 aspects of this film that I just wanted to share with you that irked me a bit, and this is purely from an unresolved subplot perspective, or when Hindi cinema has a tendency to become indulgent. The relationship between Gulshan and Sunita is going through a rocky patch, and how they meet in the middle and still feel gravitated towards one another is slightly unresolved in my opinion. Other than loving one another, their point of conflict, I believe, still persists despite the change of heart Gulshan has had through the experience of being the coach of this team. The second point I want to talk about is that there's this comedic sequence where Aamir and Genelia end up role-playing in order to get funds for travel, which is probably the only scene where I think the movie went into silly territory to the point where it wasn't even funny. And finally, I think there is an epiphany that Gulshan has when he observes his team celebrating, which I believe can be felt versus described. Hear me out, I want to explain this. This is what actors like Rajkumar Rao and Nawazuddin Siddiqui have often described in Hindi cinema acting, that if one is to denote confusion, they'll scratch their head. If one is feeling anger, they'll flare their nostrils. It's not subtle, and you'll notice that with some of the mannerisms of Aamir Khan's approach. The wide-eyed in shock and scratching the head in confusion, but thankfully it never becomes too distracting. I just felt In this moment that I'm talking about, where he does observe what makes his team so special, it could have been felt versus described to Genelia. You know, how do I explain this? The journey of SRK in processing the victory in Chak De is simply expressed through his reaction. Salman Khan's frustration in Sultan is merely showcased through a static shot of him struggling to wear his shirt. Many of these moments speak 1,000 words versus having to tell you what they are feeling. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I just felt in this particular scene, I hope that the makers used that approach. The good. Genuinely funny, Sitaare Zameen Par is a beautiful example of how effective comedy does not have to resort to double meaning dialogues and profanity for laughs. The adjustment period of Gulshan with the team produces several hilarious moments. Ashish Pense plays my favorite character called Sunil, who has some of the funniest and sometimes most profound moments shared with Gulshan. Lotus pulling his leg about the profession of his wife, Kareem's incessant nature to shoot a basketball with his back facing the hoop, Sadbir telling him to shut up so that he can concentrate, and the several instances in which the team and their simplistic nature takes instructions quite literally, accounting for Gulshan getting infuriated and frustrated. It accounted for some great laughs in the theatre. It's genuinely wholesome, and the comedy is not restricted to just the team, but extends to Dolly Ahluwalia, Gulshan's mother, and their cook played by Bijendra Kala. The way Dolly Ahluwalia gives Gulshan a reality check but couples it with a loving hug just accounts for some of the cutest scenes in the film. My favorite sequence is this moment where Gulshan is mouthing basketball jargon that is anyway going over the team's head just to show some stiff competition to the other coach. I had a smile on my face through several instances in this film. The cast. I cannot fault the performances of this film. Dolly Ahluwalia is fantastic as the indulgent yet realistic matriarch who brings some sense into the restrictive mindset of Gulshan. It's crazy to me that the first time I saw Genelia on screen was close to 20 years ago, and she just looks the same. And she has the same charm even today. Both Dolly and Genelia are essentially putting some sense into a man-child in the form of Gulshan, and I understand that it can be frustrating, but Genelia has a sense of ease and this unassuming quality about her that you instantly gravitate towards. I wish she features more in Hindi films because she's such a natural. Gurpal Singh, as the boss who manages the establishment in which the kids play, has nuggets of wisdom that act as great moments of self-analysis for Gulshan, explained with great sensitivity. The kids truly are the stars of the show, each person having a distinct personality, and what's the best part about watching them? It looks like they're having an absolute blast on set. The one thing I was worried about, and this is something that is there because I'm slightly scarred with Hindi cinema, is that they all follow the rules of basketball, portraying the sport as an accurate representation of how the matches would have gone down. It is, however, Gulshan's arc that becomes the core focus of the screenplay, and many have criticized Aamir's pitch at which he performs, but I have to say, he really won me over with this film. Self-deprecatory and organic progression. The constant chatter about the film beyond Aamir's performance has been how the hell is Aamir, who is relatively 5'6" in height, a basketball coach? And I think we were naive to believe that Aamir won't be self-aware enough to address the same. The elephant in the room, Aamir Khan's height, is a consistent gag in the film, and Aamir embraces these jabs. The justification of the said occupation is also very organically explained in the film through the exploration of Gulshan's origin story with his mother. The transformation of Gulshan from an arrogant and egotistical man to a loving and receptive individual is heartwarming. The change of heart from the first day of practice to the finals of the basketball tournament has been beautifully etched out. I was thinking that maybe the film will not make me shed a tear, maybe this will just be a wholesome ride that will put a smile on my face and make me admire the makers for what they chose to shed light on, but I found myself genuinely moved in several instances. The explanation of the struggle of families that raise differently abled children, these children absolutely having no choice. Gurpal Singh explains the same by saying, "Sabka apna apna normal hota hai. Kismat hateli pe nahi, chromosome pe likh ke aati hai." Imagine we were just talking about interval blocks on the channel, and this movie has a rather bizarre sequence that if you read on paper, you would think that it's absolutely absurd. But I couldn't help but shed a tear on how beautifully it is designed to help overcome a character's fear. Aamir genuinely won my heart on how he concluded the film. I wanted some closure on the journey that they've had together, and when it finally came to the point of it all culminating, I felt like I was grateful for this journey. The crossroads that I find myself in when reviewing such a movie is of pragmatism and the escapism I wish for with films. The point is that I acknowledge that this film is a remake, and that for those who have seen the original film, maybe this film will not be motivating enough for you to spend money on in the theatre. But I just want to tell you personally, I couldn't help but be moved despite knowing about the original source material. I love that Aamir Khan Productions really made the children the stars. I look at this frame of their smiling faces and the sheer grace with which Aamir Khan has presented each individual, each with individual episodes on YouTube, and it is not something that you see from a major production company. Honestly, let's get real. If you've seen the original film, you aren't going to get something spectacularly different from what you have already seen. So I empathize with your pessimism. However, if you haven't and want to champion a film that goes against the tide in themes, genre, and who it represents, I feel like Sitaare Zameen Par does a darn good job in celebrating those who have not been given the dignity of equality ever in their life. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Sitaare Zameen Par. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle is right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.